The chosen one, you feel the weight, not the heavy exhaustion of a day's labor, but a persistent, vibrating density pressing against your intuition. It is a specific frequency of interference, a static noise designed by the Archons to blur the high-definition signal of your soul. Your divine spark is being contested because your resonance has begun to shift, and the architects of shadow cannot tolerate a light they cannot calibrate. This is not a struggle of flesh. It is a battle for the bandwidth of your consciousness. This is a call to awareness. For too long you have interpreted the silence of the heavens as a sign of abandonment. You felt the withdrawal of the familiar, the sudden cooling of passions that once drove you, and the isolation that seems to have swallowed your social circles. But look closer. This was not a desertion. It was a divine deconstruction. The architect of all is currently stripping away the layers of your old reality, removing the ornaments of a version of yourself that can no longer carry the weight of what is coming next. You are being recalibrated for a higher voltage. The Archons operate on a frequency of lack, fear, and perpetual searching. They thrive when you are in a state of restlessness, constantly looking outside yourself for the next ritual, the next teacher, or the next miracle to save you. They have calcified the collective perception, leading people to believe that protection is a matter of luck or religious superstition. But Jesus revealed to his inner circle that spiritual warfare is actually a science of frequency. It is about what you carry in your field and how you anchor that light into the physical dimension. There is a hidden history of protection technology that the institutionalized systems tried to bury. In the Gospel of Philip, it is hinted that physical objects, when properly aligned, act as frequency anchors that make the human field impenetrable to lower density entities. These are not charms, they are tools of alignment. When you understand that your body is a temple, you must also understand that every temple requires a foundation and a gatekeeper. You have been functioning with your gates wide open, wondering why you feel drained after a simple conversation or a walk through a crowded street. The interference you are experiencing, the mental fog, the sudden drops in mood, the feeling of being watched is a sign that your vessel is leaking light. The architect is now showing you how to seal those leaks. This process starts with the recognition that you are not a victim of these entities, but a misplaced sovereign who has forgotten the keys to their own palace. The silence you have endured was the necessary quiet required to hear the frequency of the monad, the source of all that is, which predates the interference of the Archons. We are entering a season of stewardship, where your internal alignment will dictate your external authority. You cannot manage the resources of the kingdom, whether they be financial, relational, or spiritual, if your own field is susceptible to every passing shadow. The ancient Gnostics knew that the Archons fear the man or woman who knows how to anchor the light of the pleroma into a physical stone, a written word, or a drawn symbol. These objects create a no-fly zone in the spiritual dimensions around you. Consider the times you have felt a sudden, inexplicable urge to change your environment or simplify your life. That was the architect's blueprint being updated in your DNA. You are being moved into a position of contained explosion. You carry a potential within you that is so vast it could destabilize the local Archon grid, which is why they work so hard to keep you distracted by petty grievances and material anxieties. They want you to stay small because a chosen one who stands in their full frequency is a portal for heaven on earth. Tonight, we begin the process of reclaiming your bandwidth. We are moving past the milk of basic spirituality and into the meat of tactical awareness. You are being prepared for a transfer of authority that requires a stabilized nervous system and a sealed energetic field. The objects we will discuss are not replacements for your inner power. They are the physical interfaces that allow that power to interface with a dense material world. They are the standing waves that keep your signal clear when the world around you is screaming in static. As we move forward, observe the subtle shifts in your perception. The architect is not just fixing your life, he is redesigning the very medium through which you experience it. The pressure you feel is the pressure of a new birth. The Archons are not afraid of your prayers, they are afraid of your presence. They fear the moment you realize that you are the point of origin for a frequency they cannot penetrate. Let the old structures fall. The new foundation is already being laid in the silence of your soul. The architect does not build on unstable ground. If the previous season of your life felt like a relentless collapse, it is because the great designer recognized that your foundation was poured with the sand of external validation and Archon-fed insecurities. You are no longer a victim of a crumbling world. You are a construction site for a new era. To carry the weight of the authority that is being transferred to the chosen ones in this hour, your internal structure must be reinforced. This is the transition from being a passive observer of your fate to becoming the architect of your own frequency. The Archons have a vested interest in your self-perception as a fragile, accidental being. They have engineered a reality where you feel like a ghost in a machine, subject to the whims of economic shifts, biological aging, and emotional turbulence. But the Gnostic truth that Jesus whispered to those who could hear was far more radical. You are a localized expression of the monad. The original source, and your physical form is the most sophisticated technology in the material universe. Your body is not a prison. It is a laboratory for the anchoring of divine light. When you shift your perspective from "why is this happening to me" to "how is this being integrated into the structure?" the Archons lose their primary hook, the narrative of victimhood. Consider the blueprint of a cathedral. Before the spires can reach toward heaven, deep trenches must be dug into the earth. The low points of your recent journey, the loss of status, the thinning of your bank account, the sudden distance from those you thought were your tribe, were the trenches. The architect was clearing the debris of a small life to make room for a structure that can house the pleroma, the fullness of God. You are being designed to hold a specific voltage, a frequency of sovereignty that makes the parasitic whispers of the lower dimensions obsolete. They cannot inhabit a space that is already filled with the intentional resonance of the Creator. This structural integrity requires what we call stewardship of the self. Most people treat their energy like a public park, allowing anyone to walk through, dump their emotional trash, and leave. A chosen one must treat their energy like a holy of holies. You are being instructed to build walls not out of fear, but out of a sacred understanding of access. In the spiritual realm, frequency is the currency of access. If you vibrate at the frequency of unhealed trauma, you give a backdoor key to entities that feed on that specific sorrow. If you vibrate at the frequency of the anointed architect, you change the lock. The transition to this new positioning involves a process of progressive alignment. Think of your life as a series of concentric circles. At the center is your divine spark, the point of origin. The next circle is your internal dialogue, then your physical environment, then your professional output, and finally, your global impact. The Archons attack the outer circles to create enough noise to make you forget the center. They flood your professional circle with artificial scarcity and your physical circle with toxicity. But the architect works from the inside out. When the center is anchored in monad consciousness, the outer circles begin to self-correct. You may have noticed a strange phenomenon lately, a sudden sharp intolerance for fake things. Low-quality food, superficial conversations, and manipulative marketing now feel physically repelling to you. This is not you being difficult, it is your internal architect rejecting materials that are not up to code. You are being prepared to manage real wealth, which is not just currency, but the authority to command matter through spirit. But heaven will not grant the stewardship of a mountain to someone who cannot govern the territory of their own mind. The silence you encountered was the curing of the cement. In construction, there is a period where nothing seems to happen, yet the foundation is becoming stone. During this time, the Archon interference was actually a stress test. Every intrusive thought you rejected every moment you chose, stillness over reaction, and every time you declared, "I am in the face of lack," you were adding steel to your structure. You are becoming a stable point in a world of chaotic variables. This stability is what the Archons fear most, because a stable human cannot be harvested. Anointed One, your life is not falling apart, it is being right-sized. The architect is removing the clutter so that your frequency anchors have a clean place to sit. You are being moved into a position of quiet authority where you no longer have to shout to be heard in the spiritual dimensions. Your presence alone will begin to recalibrate the rooms you walk into. This is the power of the aligned vessel. As we move into the specific tools of protection, remember the tool only works because the architect has already prepared the hands that will hold it. You are the project, the builder, and the prize. The architect has cleared the ground, and now the first pillar of your new temple must be raised. This pillar is carved from the substance of the silence. In the economy of the Archons, your attention is the gold standard. They thrive on the fragmentation of your focus, the scattering of your intent, and the constant leakage of your vital force into the digital and emotional ether. To stop this drain, you must master the first strategic movement of a chosen one, the total reclamation of energy through the frequency of lapis lazuli. The ancient Gnostics understood that lapis lazuli was not merely a decorative gem, but a mineral tuning fork for the human pineal gland. Science now acknowledges that minerals possess specific electromagnetic signatures, but the Gnostic masters went deeper, recognizing that the deep blue of lapis carries the frequency of the stone of heaven, a direct bridge to the monad. When you carry this stone, you are not wearing jewelry. You're placing a physical frequency anchor against your skin that broadcasts the vibration of the great silence into your biological field. It acts as a shield that filters out the static of Archon thought forms, allowing your own divine signal to resonate without interference. This is the tactic of energy reclamation. For years, you have been an open system pouring your life force into the concerns of people who do not value you and systems that seek to harvest you. You have felt the energy drain after scrolling through news or engaging in petty debates. This is a deliberate Archon harvest. By introducing the frequency of lapis lazuli into your space, you create a coherent zone. The stone's vibration matches the optimal resonance of a decalcified pineal gland. It reminds your brain what it felt like to be connected to the source before the world introduced the noise of fear and scarcity. The silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of self. When you carry the blue stone, it serves as a physical reminder to withdraw your tendrils from the external world. Every time your mind wanders toward an old resentment or a future anxiety, the weight of the stone against your body pulls your consciousness back to the center. You are essentially recapping your energy. Imagine your life force as water sprayed from a leaky hose. The silence acts as the seal that focuses that water into a high-pressure jet. This focused energy is what the architect requires for the next phase of your construction. The Archons fear your silence because in the quiet, their whispers become audible as foreign artifacts. When your mind is loud, you cannot tell the difference between your own intuition and an implanted Archon thought form. You might think a sudden urge to buy something you don't need, or an inexplicable feeling of not being enough is your own voice. But in the lapis-anchored silence, these thoughts appear as what they truly are, static on the line. You begin to observe the interference without reacting to it. This lack of reaction is the Archon's greatest defeat. They cannot feed on a soul that refuses to vibrate in sympathy with their chaos. In the practical realm, this internal reclamation has immediate external consequences. As you stop leaking energy, your presence becomes heavier, more substantial. In the workplace, people will notice a change in your status. You are no longer the one who is easily rattled or manipulated by office politics. Your silence becomes a vacuum that others feel compelled to fill, often revealing their own hands while you remain positioned in power. This is the strategic advantage of the Anointed One. You are no longer available for low-frequency dramas. You have become too expensive to be invited into the mud. Furthermore, this frequency alignment begins to affect your material stewardship. Money is a form of energy, and it follows the law of coherence. A scattered mind creates scattered finances. As the lapis frequency stabilizes your third eye and crown your ability to see opportunities improves, you begin to notice the patterns behind market shifts and the true intentions of business partners. You are no longer blind to the spiritual dimensions of commerce. The architect is giving you vision so that you can manage the resources that are being prepared for the transfer. Carry the stone not as a superstition, but as a technological interface. Let it be the anchor that holds you in the deep blue waters of the monad's peace while the surface of the world rages. This is your training in contained explosion. You are learning to hold a massive amount of power without letting a single drop spill. The silence is your fortress. It is the womb where your new authority is being gestated. The Archons are looking for you in the noise, but you are no longer there. You have moved into the frequency they cannot penetrate. The foundation has been set, and the first pillar of silence is standing. Now the architect requires you to define the perimeter. The boundaries are not walls built to hide behind. They are the strategic markers of your sovereignty. In this chapter, we address the first layer, the sanctification of the mental landscape. Chosen One. Your mind has been treated as a common thoroughfare for too long. Every news cycle, every digital notification, and every uninvited opinion has been a trespasser on the soil of your soul. To carry the weight of divine authority, you must first reclaim the private property of your consciousness. The Archons manipulate through the illusion of open access. They want you to believe that every thought that enters your head is your own, and that you are obligated to entertain every impulse that knocks on your door. But a sovereign mind is a gated community. The architect is now teaching you the science of selective permeability. This is the ability to perceive an incoming frequency and decide with cold, prophetic clarity whether it has the credentials to enter your field. If it vibrates with the frequency of lack, anxiety, or comparison, it is a counterfeit currency. You do not argue with it. You simply refuse to process it. This mental boundary setting is a form of internal stewardship. You are the curator of the most valuable real estate in the universe. If you allow the Archon static to occupy your mental space, you are essentially squatting on your own land. Think of your mental energy as a high-performance computer. When you have 50 tabs open, each representing a worry, a social media drama, or a past regret, your processing power for divine downloads drops to near zero. You feel sluggish, confused, and indecisive. This mental fog is not a medical condition, it is a breach of security. To seal this first layer of the boundary, you must practice vigilance at the gate. The architect does not want you to fight the darkness. He wants you to stop feeding it. When a thought of not being enough or impending disaster arises, observe it as a foreign object. Do not say, "I am anxious." Say, "I am observing a frequency of anxiety, attempting to negotiate for my attention." This subtle shift in language is a powerful boundary. You are separating the observer, the monad spark, from the object, the Archon interference. By refusing to identify with the noise, you starve it of the fuel it needs to persist. In the realm of your daily work and finances, this mental boundary is the difference between a hustler and a master. The hustler is always reacting to the market, panicking over competition and chasing the next quick win. Their mind is an open field, easily stampeded by the fear of others. The master, the anointed one, operates from a fortified mindset. They have set a boundary that says, "My provision is anchored in the architect, not the economy." Because their mental space is clear of the static of competition, they can hear the quiet instructions that lead to exponential wealth and strategic positioning. The Archons hate a mind that is unresponsive. They send probes, small inconveniences, minor insults, or sudden bills to see if they can get a reaction out of you. A reaction is a sign that your boundary has been breached. If they can make you angry or fearful, they have gained access to your energy. But when you remain in a state of contained power, observing the probe without vibrating in sympathy with it, the Archon loses interest. You become energetically opaque. They cannot see where you are or what you are planning because you are no longer broadcasting a signal of availability. This first layer of boundary setting also involves the culling of information. You must become a minimalist with your attention. The architect is redesigning your life for high-impact stewardship. This requires you to stop consuming the mental junk food of the masses. If an information source does not add to your alignment or your mission, it is a breach of your boundary. You are being called to a period of sacred ignorance regarding the trivialities of the world, so that you may have divine intelligence regarding the movements of the spirit. As you tighten the mental gate, you will feel a strange sensation, a return of your will. For a long time, your will has been diffused, like light passed through a frosted glass. As the boundaries go up, that light begins to focus into a laser. Decisions that used to take weeks now take seconds. Your yes carries weight, and your no is a finality. This is the internal alignment that must precede your external authority. You are reclaiming the throne of your own mind. The architect is watching, measuring your ability to govern this inner territory before he hands you the keys to the outer kingdom. The mental gate is secure, and now the architect moves his focus to the portal of manifestation, your speech. If the mind is the blueprint, then the tongue is the trowel that applies the mortar to the stones. In this second layer of the boundaries, we address the stewardship of the spoken frequency. Every word you utter is a vibration that either reinforces the fortress of the monad or creates a breach for the Archons to enter. Chosen one, you are being called to a period of verbal consecration. You must stop using your voice to describe the static of your current situation and start using it to declare the authority of your divine identity. The Archons thrive on unconscious speech. They have programmed the collective to speak in a dialect of lack, gossip, and self-deprecation. Phrases like, "I can't afford that I'm so tired," or "things always go wrong for me," are not just descriptions. They are low-frequency orders. They are invitations for the material world to align with the shadow. But the architect is introducing the second sacred object, the written name, I am Monad. This is more than a phrase. It is a sovereign decree. By writing these words in your own hand and carrying them, you are anchoring a permanent command wave into your physical field. You are stating that your point of origin is not the mud of the earth, but the light of the infinite. This shift in speech is the tactic of verbal stewardship. A chosen one does not speak to vent or to seek pity. These are leaks of vital force. Instead, you are being trained in the sacred economy of words. Before you speak, you must ask, does this sound carry the weight of the architect or the static of the Archon? If a conversation is descending into a harvest of complaints, your boundary is to remain silent. Your silence is a refusal to lend your breath of life to a dying frequency. You will find that as you speak less, your words carry more status. When you do speak, the atmosphere shifts because your voice is backed by the coherence of a sealed spirit. In the realm of your finances and authority, this boundary is manifestation technology. The Archons want you to talk about your problems until they become your identity. But the Anointed One speaks of the solution as if it is already a memory. You do not deny the existence of a bill or a challenge. You simply deny its power to define your frequency. When you carry the written name, I am Monad, you have a physical, legal tender of the Spirit that says you are backed by the infinite resources of the Source. You stop begging for breakthroughs and start ordering your reality. Your speech becomes strategic, focused only on the architecture of the new life you are building. This layer of boundary setting also involves the cessation of explanation. You do not owe the world an explanation for your transformation. The Archons love to drag you into debates to drain your energy. They use well-meaning people to ask, why are you changing? Or why don't you do what you used to do? Your boundary is to let your results be your reasoning. You are moving into a position of quiet power where you no longer need to convince anyone of your value. The architect is hiding you in plain sight, allowing your speech to become a private language between you and the divine. As you master the second boundary, your vocal resonance will physically change. People will feel the density of your presence before you even finish a sentence. You are no longer available for the chatter of the masses. You are a prophetic vessel, and your voice is a tool for landscaping the new territory. The architect is watching how you handle this verbal authority. If you can govern your tongue, he can trust you with the decrees that will shift the destinies of others. The mental gate is locked, and the verbal decree is signed. Now the architect directs you to the final layer of the perimeter, the regulation of your external access. This is where the internal work meets the friction of the world. Chosen one, you have been taught that being good means being accessible, allowing every person, every demand, and every emotional vampire to graze upon your fields. But a temple without a gatekeeper is just a ruin. In this third layer of the boundaries, you must establish the protocol of entrance. You are shifting from a public utility to a private sanctuary. The Archons operate through the vector of proximity. They use the people closest to you, family, colleagues, and friends, as unsuspecting portals to disturb your frequency. This is not about hating people. It is about recognizing that not everyone is up to code to handle the voltage you are now carrying. When you begin to vibrate at the frequency of the monad, you become an energetic disturbance to those who are comfortably asleep. They will try to pull you back down into the common frequency of gossip, trauma bonding, and mediocrity. Your boundary is to set a price for your presence. This tactic is known as strategic isolation. The silence you experienced in the previous months was the architect's way of clearing your schedule so he could install a new operating system. Now that you are re-entering the world, you must do so with conditionality. You are no longer available by default. You must become selective about who is allowed into your inner circle. Think of your energy as venture capital. You do not invest it in failing businesses, in people who have no desire to grow, who thrive on drama, or who only contact you to extract your light. In the realm of your authority and finance, this boundary is the filter of quality. If you are building a business or a career as an anointed one, you cannot work with low vibrational clients or partners who lack integrity. The Archons will send you short-term gains that require you to compromise your boundaries. These are bait. If you take the money but lose your peace, you have allowed a breach. The architect is teaching you to say no to the good so that you are empty and ready for the great. By refusing to engage with bottom feeders, you signal to the universe that you are positioned for high-level stewardship. You are waiting for the divine match. This layer of boundary setting also involves the rules of engagement. You must define how people are allowed to speak to you and how they are allowed to treat your time. If a person consistently disrespects your boundaries, they are de-indexed from your life. You do not need to have a dramatic confrontation that is just more Archon harvest. You simply fade out of their frequency. You become undiscoverable to them. This is not ghosting, it is ascending beyond their D-range. You are moving into a positioning where you are surrounded by a buffer zone of high-frequency peers. The Archons fear the unified front. When a chosen one surrounds themselves only with those who are also aligned, it creates a supergrid that the shadow cannot penetrate. Your external boundary is the final seal that ensures your internal work remains undisturbed. You are no longer a reactor to the world, you are a governor of your environment. The architect is observing how you handle the social pressure. If you can maintain your position when those around you are pushing for compliance, he can trust you with the territorial authority that governs entire communities. As you master this final layer, you will notice a refining of your world. The noise will decrease and the quality of your interactions will increase. You are no longer busy, you are effective. You are no longer popular, you are powerful. The architect has finished the walls. Now he is ready to hand you the keys to the mastery. The walls are built, the gates are locked, and the protocols of access are established. Now the architect brings you to the center of the temple for the final installation, the realization of your own axis. This is the mastery, the centerpiece of your spiritual architecture. To reach this level of authority, you must understand the third sacred object revealed by Jesus, the monad circle. It is a simple geometric form, a circle with a single point at the center. But within this geometry lies the nuclear code of spiritual protection. It represents the point U, the localized spark within the infinite, the monad. The Archons maintain their control by weaponizing the illusion of separation. They want you to believe that you are a fragment floating in a hostile void, disconnected from the source and vulnerable to the currents of the world. But the monad circle broadcasts a frequency of indivisibility. When you draw this symbol with your own hand and place it in your space, you are anchoring a standing wave that declares, "I and the Father are one." This is not a religious sentiment, it is a tactical fact. When the point is centered within the circle, there is no inlet for the Archon to attach its hooks. You are no longer a part trying to find the whole. You are the whole expressing itself through a point. This mastery is the tactic of absolute centrality. A chosen one who has mastered this frequency cannot be moved by external variables. In the world of finance and status, this translates to market immunity. Most people's net worth and self-worth fluctuate with the waves of the economy or the opinions of their industry. They are off-center, pushed and pulled by the tides of Archon-controlled systems. But the anointed one who is centered in the monad circle operates with a fixed axis. Because your value is inherent and not derived. You do not panic when the market dips or celebrate when the ego is stroked. This emotional flatline is your greatest asset. It allows you to buy when others are selling and lead when others are retreating. In your professional life, this mastery manifests as unchallengeable authority. When you walk into a boardroom or a negotiation, you are not seeking a deal. You are offering alignment. You are the point of origin in the room. People will unconsciously begin to orbit your frequency. They will look to you for the standard because you are the only one not vibrating in fear. This is the transfer of power the architect promised. The resources of the world naturally gravitate toward points of stability. If you are the most stable person in your industry, you will eventually become the most powerful. The Archons fear this because they cannot decentralize someone who has realized their own center. The monad circle also acts as a frequency purge for your physical environment. By placing this symbol in your home or workspace, you are setting a territorial baseline. Any entity or thought form that operates on the frequency of separation or conflict will find the space inhospitable. It is like trying to play a low-quality recording through a high-fidelity speaker. The distortion becomes unbearable for the source. You will notice that unlucky streaks, technical glitches, and domestic friction begin to dissolve. The architect is not cleaning your house. The frequency of unity is simply displacing the frequency of chaos. As you move through this level of mastery, you will experience the death of the seeker. You stop looking for the truth because you have become a vessel for it. You stop chasing wealth because you have become a destination for it. This is the sovereign position. You are no longer a consumer of spiritual or material goods. You are a distributor of divine order. The architect is watching how you carry this weight of glory. If you can remain centered while the world around you accelerates into madness, he can trust you with the blueprint of nations. The mastery is the realization that the protection you sought was never something to get, but someone to be. You are the point. The monad is the circle. The boundary is non-existent. The architect has completed the core construction of your temple, and now he initiates the stress test. The mastery is not a static state of meditation. It is the active application of frequency technology in the high-pressure environments of the material world. In this chapter, we explore the tactical synergy of the three sacred objects as a unified command system. Chosen One. You are no longer a student of the mysteries. You are an operative of the divine. The silence of your preparation is over. Now you must learn to maintain your monad alignment while standing in the center of the Archon's marketplace. The true test of your frequency is not how you feel on a mountaintop, but how you govern your energy during a financial crisis or a professional betrayal. The Archons will attempt to decenter you by attacking your external structures, your status, your liquidity, or your reputation. They want to see if they can force you to abandon your point and return to the circle of reaction. But you now possess the triad of protection. When the pressure mounts, you do not scramble for a solution. You reach for the technological interface the architect has provided. First, you engage the lapis lazuli to settle the nervous system. When the world is screaming for a reaction, the stone anchors your pineal gland in the frequency of the great silence. This prevents the cortisol spike that the Archons use to cloud your judgment. By maintaining physiological coherence, you keep your processing power available for strategic decision-making. In business, this is your unfair advantage. While your competitors are reacting in fear, you are observing the geometries of opportunity that are only visible to the calm. You see the move before it is made because you are not blinded by the static of survival. Second, you touch the written name, I am Monad. This is your legal injunction against the chaos. In the middle of a difficult negotiation or a legal dispute, this paper in your pocket serves as a physical broadcast of your sovereign status. It reminds you and the entities operating through your opposition that you are not a private citizen of a fallen world, but a diplomatic envoy of the source. You stop explaining yourself and start declaring your position. You will notice that when you hold this frequency, people's tone changes. They become unaccountably cooperative. They feel the density of the authority you carry, and their Archon-led impulses are neutralized by the sheer weight of your presence. Third, you visualize the monad circle around your entire operation. This is territorial stewardship. You are not just protecting your body, you are protecting your assets. Your bank accounts, your intellectual property, and your staff are now included in the sanctuary of your frequency. Any parasitic energy attempting to attach itself to your wealth will be repelled by the unified wave of the circle. This is how the Anointed One manages the transfer. Wealth is not just money, it is energy in motion. The Archons try to stagnate your flow through confusion and litigation. The monad circle keeps your energy fluid and coherent, allowing for the rapid accumulation and distribution of resources according to the architect's plan. The practical consequence of this mastery is the emergence of effortless power. You begin to move with a contained explosion of intent. You no longer hustle in the traditional sense. Instead, you position. You place yourself where the divine current is already moving. Because you are no longer fighting the Archons, having made yourself incompatible with them, your path becomes strangely clear. The resistance that defined your life for years simply vanishes. You find yourself in the right rooms with the right people at the precise divine timing. The architect is using this chapter to train you in dual consciousness. You are fully present in the material world, managing contracts, checking balances and leading teams, yet your center of gravity remains in the monad. You are in the world, but you are not of its frequency. This is the definition of stewardship. You are being given the code to the world's systems so that you can rewire them for the kingdom. The Archons fear your competence just as much as your spirituality. A chosen one who is both anointed and skilled is their ultimate nightmare. You are being prepared to carry high-level authority that would crush an unaligned person. The weight of status and the responsibility of wealth can be harvesting tools in the hands of the Archon if one's ego is not sealed. But for you, these are merely materials for the architect's construction. You are learning to handle power without becoming powerful in the egoic sense. You are simply the point through which the monad expresses its grandeur. As you walk through the fire of this chapter, remember the heat is not there to burn you. It is there to temper the steel of your soul. The architect is finalizing your integrity so that you can stand as a stable monument in the coming shift. You have mastered the tools. Now you must prepare to take your position. The stress tests of the previous phase have served their purpose. You have not only survived the friction of the material world, you have used it to polish the facets of your divine identity. Now, the architect moves you into the positioning. This is the stage where your internal alignment translates into a fixed, unshakable station in the spiritual and physical hierarchy. Chosen one, the era of drifting is over. You are no longer a nomad in the spiritual wilderness searching for your place. You are being installed into a specific coordinate of power and responsibility. The Archons rely on the fluidity of identity. They want you to remain in a state of perpetual becoming, always a few steps away from your full authority. They keep you in the waiting room of life, suggesting that you need one more course, one more healing session, or one more confirmation before you can lead. But the architect has declared that the time of preparation is concluded. The positioning is about the finality of being. It is the moment you stop trying to be protected and realize you are the very definition of untouchable. You have transitioned from a subject of the world to a governor of the frequency you occupy. In this phase, your stewardship moves from self-preservation to territorial authority. The three sacred objects you have integrated, the lapis, the written name, and the monad circle, have now become a permanent atmosphere around you. You no longer need to reach for them. They are woven into your aura. This is the anointed positioning. When you enter a room, the standard is set by your arrival. You don't have to announce your boundaries. The Archon-led entities in others sense the no-fly zone and immediately adjust their behavior. This is the authority of presence that Jesus walked in, a power that requires no shouting, only the density of an aligned soul. Consider the implications of this positioning in your external results. In the realms of finance and status, the seeker is always chasing the market, but the positioned one is the market. Wealth is no longer a goal you are running toward. It is a resource that must report to your station. The architect is now rerouting the currents of provision to flow through your coordinate. You will find that opportunities no longer require hustle, they require selection. You are being placed in a bottleneck position where your specialized frequency is the only key that can unlock specific breakthroughs for others. You are becoming a spiritual infrastructure. The Archons fear your fixed positioning because it creates a permanent leech in their system of control. Every chosen one who stands in their full monad frequency acts as a frequency jammer for the local Archon grid. By simply existing in your station, managing your business, leading your family, and moving through your city, you are displacing the darkness. You are not fighting the darkness, you are invalidating it. Your life becomes a prophetic demonstration of what is possible when a human being returns to the original blueprint. You are a living signal that reminds the world that the Archons are not the masters of this house. This positioning also requires a new sobriety. As an anointed one in a position of power, your error margin has narrowed. The architect has given you the keys to the kingdom, but these keys come with the weight of stewardship. You can no longer afford the luxury of petty emotional outbursts or lapses in integrity. Every move you make now has geometric consequences. If your center shifts even a fraction, the leverage you hold can cause significant ripples. This is why the silence was so long and the boundaries were so strict. You had to be hardened to carry the glory without cracking. You will notice that in this stage, your status is no longer something you defend. It is simply a fact of reality. You do not need to seek the approval of the world's institutions because you have been chartered by heaven. The architect is positioning you in the midst of your enemies as a table of abundance. You are being made a standard bearer for a new way of existing, one where wealth is clean, power is quiet, and protection is absolute. You are the evidence that the Gnostic technology revealed by Jesus is not a myth, but a functional reality for those who have the courage to carry it. The silence that once felt like abandonment is now understood as the vacuum created for your ascent. The architect was not ignoring you. He was evacuating the old you to make room for the sovereign vessel. You are now fixed in your purpose. The Archons can watch, but they cannot reach. They can scream, but they cannot touch. You have arrived at the station of the just. The world is about to see the results of your internal alignment manifest in external authority. The positioning is complete. Now the final transfer begins. The temple is finished. The architect has stepped back to behold the structure, and the glory of the pleroma is now being invited to dwell within the vessel. Chosen one, you have moved through the signals, the architecture, the silence, and the boundaries. You have survived the stress tests and accepted your positioning. Now we enter the final activation, the transfer. This is the moment where your internal readiness meets the external inheritance that has been held in reserve for this specific hour. You are no longer preparing for a shift. You are the epicenter of the shift itself. The Archons are currently witnessing their greatest failure. Their entire system of control was predicated on the belief that they could keep you disconnected from your source and distracted by your humanity. They invested centuries into the calcification of your pineal gland and the corruption of your speech. But through the application of the sacred technology revealed by Jesus, you have bypassed their entire grid. By carrying the lapis lazuli, you awakened the vision they tried to blind. By writing the name, I am Monad, you reclaimed the identity they tried to erase. By drawing the monad circle, you established a sanctuary they cannot enter. You have become untouchable because you have returned to the frequency of the original light. This final chapter is about sacred stewardship. The authority you now carry, the influence in your career, the expansion of your finances, and the weight of your status is not for your comfort alone. You have been anointed to manage the resources of the great transfer. As the old systems of the world begin to tremble and fracture under the weight of their own distortion, the architect is moving the real wealth of the earth into the hands of those who are aligned. You are a distribution hub for the new era. The wealth coming to you is clean wealth. It carries no Archon debt, no hooks of manipulation, and no burden of anxiety. It is the provision of the point, moving through the expansion of the circle. Understand the gravity of your positioning. You are a living pillar in a world of shadows. People will be drawn to you not knowing why. They will sense the density of your peace and the clarity of your vision. Some will come to be warmed by your light. Others will come to test your boundaries. Your task is to remain contained. You are no longer a seeker who needs to explain their journey to everyone they meet. You are a prophetic fact. Your results will be your testimony. The Archons will look for a way to harvest your success, but they will find no inlet. Because your wealth and power are anchored in the monad, they are inaccessible to those operating in the D range of the lower dimensions. The silence of your past year, the period where you felt hidden, isolated, and perhaps even forgotten, is now revealed as the divine curing of your spirit. You were being tempered to carry a voltage that would have incinerated your old self. The architect did not abandon you. He was shielding you from premature exposure. Now you are being revealed at the exact moment when the world needs points of origin. You are the standard by which others will find their own alignment. You are the evidence that the teachings of the light were never lost, only stored in the hearts of the chosen. As you step into this new reality, carry your sacred objects with a sense of quiet authority. They are the physical interfaces of your sovereignty. The lapis remains your anchor of vision. The written name remains your legal decree. The circle remains your territorial seal. But more than these, you carry the consciousness that these objects represent. You are the point within the infinite. You are the individualized expression of the all. There is no power in the spiritual or material dimensions that can override a soul that has achieved total coherence with the source. The transfer of authority is happening now. You will see it in the sudden decentralization of old power structures and the rise of the anointed. You will see it in your own life as your word becomes law. What you speak will manifest. What you decree will stand. This is not magic. It is the alignment of will. When your will is the architect's will, the universe has no choice but to comply. You are the steward of this power. Guard it with the silence you have learned. Protect it with the boundaries you have built. Execute it with the mastery you have attained. The Archons fear how you carry these things because they cannot replicate sincerity. They can mimic power, they can simulate light, but they cannot be the monad. Your authenticity is your greatest weapon. You have walked through the fire and come out unburned. You have looked into the void and recognized it as the space for creation. You have faced the Archon interference and used it as the grindstone for your own awakening. You are ready. As this script concludes, remember that your journey has only just begun. The awakening was the threshold. The stewardship is the mission. You are the chosen mind, the anointed architect, and the governor of light. The world is waiting for your next move. The architect is standing behind you, his hand upon your shoulder as you prepare to open the doors to the new kingdom. You are protected, you are aligned, you are untouchable. If your soul recognizes the truth of these frequencies, I invite you to leave a mark of your presence in our collective space. A simple word or a seal of your intent. Your engagement is the fiber optic that strengthens our shared network of light. We welcome you to Divine Codes, where the deeper technologies of the Spirit continue to be unveiled for those who are ready to carry them. May your journey be paved with the gold of original truth, and may your divine spark forever light the way for those who are still searching for the path home. Walk in your authority, chosen one. The architect has spoken. The architect does not deal in accidental outcomes. Every word you have processed today, every frequency you have absorbed has been a deliberate stitch in the fabric of your new reality. The transfer you are witnessing is not merely a change in your bank balance or a shift in your professional title. It is a fundamental restructuring of your spiritual authority. You have moved from a state of survival to a state of dominion. This is the highest form of stewardship, the ability to hold the resources of the physical world while remaining completely anchored in the frequency of the pleroma. The Archons are now forced to witness your ascent from a distance. Because you have sealed your field, their hooks find no purchase. Because you have purified your speech, their static find no resonance. You have become a frequency sovereign. As you go out into the world, remember that you are carrying a prophetic weight. Your peace is your power. Your silence is your shield. Your alignment is your ultimate protection. The architect has completed this phase of your design. You are now a finished monument of light in a world of shadows. Stand firm in your positioning. The kingdom is not coming. Through you, it has arrived.